Well, Associates in Periodontics has been around for 40 years. Started by Dr. Paul Levi, my senior partner. And we were at 247 Pearl Street in Burlington for all 40 years until the building burned down on Labor Day of 2011. We're a periodontal office, which is basically treating gum disease, and also we place dental implants. And I'm also a consultant up at the Fletcher Allen Hospital, where I'm the dental consultant for placement of oral appliances to treat sleep apnea and snoring. We have about 4,500 patients. There's 4 doctors. 2 of us are full-time and 2 of us are part-time. And I have about 26 employees because we have, or had, the office in Burlington and also an office down in Barre, Vermont. I remember thinking clearly that, okay, they'll put it out, we'll be fine, we'll just replace some walls, we'll be back to work in a week. And then about an hour later, when the flames shot out the roof, I knew we were in trouble. And actually the fire chief, at one point in time, a little after that, it's like every fire truck blared their, whatever it is, their horns, and all the firemen came out of the building. And I remember asking him, what's going on now? He goes, it's over. We're going into defensive mode now. We've lost. He was very, very upset. I mean, the firemen were emotionally upset about it because they're not used to losing. He says, one of the floors collapsed. It's now dangerous to be in there, and everybody's out. The hook and ladders were all up on the roof, and 3 of them just pouring water down into the thing. And they were in defensive mode just to make sure it didn't spread to the neighborhoods. That was about 11 o'clock. By that time, all my staff was there behind me. We were all sort of huddled together, watching it. It's an interesting feeling watching your 28 years of your life sort of burn to the ground. I remember thinking at about 11 o'clock with all my staff there that we need to contact everybody who's supposed to be coming in tomorrow and let them know that we're not here. And I was thinking, how in the world are we going to do that? We don't even know who was coming in tomorrow. So I spoke to Kim, my front desk person, and said, do you happen to have a day sheet that you brought home over the weekend that has names on it? We can look up everybody's phone number. And she did. She generally would take home a printed day sheet, even though our schedule was all electronic on the computer. We didn't have access to our server. So fortunately, we had a paper copy of the schedule.
How did you make out with the computer? Were all of your records computerized before the fire?
That's a really good question. And an interesting story. We were about 80% electronic at the time, meaning if you had come to see me, any x-rays that I would have taken were digital x-rays. Any chartings that we would have done were also digital. What we didn't have was the paper records, of course, where if you said to me, Brian, what did you tell me last time you saw me? I didn't have that information. That's on paper. So we needed to get the backup going and get our server back on. Plus, we had our satellite office in Barre that hooked into the server. And they ran the schedule and everything off of the server. So it was pretty critical to get back up and running. We have a rule in my office that's pretty critical, and that is no one ever leaves without the backup. And at the time, we were using a tape backup, and I had a redundancy in that backup, in that I also backed up to the cloud, whatever the cloud is, that we had that service. So that was the next thing I asked was, who has the backup from Friday? Because I teach on Fridays and I wasn't there. And sure enough, we had it. We had the tape. So that was an incredible sigh of relief. Knowing we had the backup, knowing that I had insurance coverage, which turned out to be somewhat of a disaster, and still is, but we had a backup. So I got in touch with my IT company, the tech group out in Williston, and said, we have the tape, and we need to be back up and running. And they said, no problem. We'll get you up and running in no time on a virtual server. That shouldn't be a problem. Do you have your software? I said, which software? That's not on the tape? He said, no, No, your software is not on the tape. That's a data backup. You need your dental software. Do you have a copy of that? And I was like, yeah, in the building that just burned down. So I said, well, you're gonna have to get in touch with Kodak and have them either send it, over the cloud or send you a disk. Said okay, and any other software that you need to run, our accounting software and our imaging software, all the softwares, we didn't have them. We didn't have them. We had a data backup. Because the full backup, we didn't do a full backup every day. We would do that once a week. So, pulling stuff off of that, we still needed more than what we had. So anyway, it was interesting because I said, well, forget the cloud, I've got the tape. Go ahead and at least going on that as soon as we get the Kodak dental software. And as soon as I gave them the tape, they said, it was about 3 years old that I had this tape backup system. I said, they don't make this anymore. Technology changes so swiftly that they didn't have access to a tape drive to run our tape. So I was like, well, we got to be able to get one somewhere. And so we ended up going on eBay and overnighting a tape drive that would take my cartridge so that we could put the data back into the system. So I said, well, now I'm going to call the cloud and say, well, whichever comes first, we're going to get back online. So back to you get what you pay for. The cloud service wasn't what I had anticipated. I guess I hadn't purchased the overnight version, and they told me it would take a few days for them to download all the data, because we had a lot of images, and to put that onto a disk and send it to us. So I said, well, just get going and do it. And sure enough, about 4 days later, it came. And I just wanted to run a check with that one and also on the tape drive that we had to make sure that the amount of gigabytes of information was the same and that sort of thing. But the drive, the disk they sent us was filled with errors. It was just filled with errors, and my IT people said, we can't even use this disk. So we're using the tape anyway. But I called the company up and said, it's filled with errors. What are you doing? I said, oh, well, we'll do another then. And I'm like, 4 more days, you're going to do another, and it's probably going to be filled with errors again anyway. So that was hugely disappointing, that here I thought I was doing the right thing, backing up to the cloud, like they tell you to do, having redundancy. And if I hadn't had that tape, I would have been in some trouble. Good news is we recovered all of our data. All of the electronic data that we had was there, and we were back virtualized in just a few days on a virtual server so that the Barry office could hook in, and now we could start to hook in as well up here in Burlington. Now the problem is I didn't have computers. Now, one, everybody's still in my house. Every day we had a meeting at 9 o'clock, but I only have 3 computers only. I have 3 computers at my house, and we had some people bring in laptops, and we started accessing this virtual server. But even that was slow and difficult, and with everybody in one room and the echoing, and it was a very difficult thing. We needed to find our own space. We also needed to hook up phones, and SovereignNet was great, and they were literally there the next day and gave us 2 internet phones. I had a modem with a couple of extra ports on it, and we got our number ported over, so that worked out well, although the quality wasn't so great, so it was still difficult. But at least we could get incoming calls now of patients that were calling, and we could get the messages and do everything we needed to do. Once that all happened, I went to my IT guys and said, I want to know how, if this ever happens again, you can get me up and running in 1 hour. I want to know how much it costs. I may choose to do it in 2 days. That may be my choice. But I want to know what's it going to take to be up and running in 1 hour. And that's where we are today.
So today you'd be, if this happened again, you'd be able to recover that quickly.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So we now, I hate to say back up to the cloud again, but we now back up to the Tech Vault over at the Tech Group is one thing that I have. We have a NAS on site that's backed up every 15 minutes or so, and I have another unit that is the cloud backup. But if they needed to, if we really couldn't get it all back together, and we lost that unit in the fire as well, that can be shipped out to me as well. And that takes snapshots every every 15 minutes. You know, you want to pay as little as you have to get what you need, obviously. But we're dead in the water without this information. And as we all go to this electronic medical record, and I think it's standard that we all have to do it, medical and dental by 2014, if we don't back these things up correctly, then it's an unbelievable disservice to our patients, to our practices, and I can't think of anything worse from my practice perspective than having a tragedy like this, and then on top of it being told, and you've lost everything. You have no data. I don't know how you could even react to that. So we have to get the word out how critical it is to not just have one backup, you know, because sometimes you think, well, I'll take this home and we're fine. There has to be redundancy, and we need to have systems that are proven to work, and even those I don't trust. So even right now, we've been back in practice since January 16th of 2012, so 6-7 months, whatever it is. Even now, I have the 2 off-site backups. You know, I haven't had the guts to say, okay, I don't need one anymore. This one has proven to me that it works, and I feel really safe with it. I don't. I just don't feel that way right now. And hopefully, maybe at some point in time I will, but it's well worth the dollars spent to have that peace of mind. Totally.